Welcome to Manga's Seal YouTube channel. The previous video link is on the description box or on the top right card. Volume 16, The Half-Elf Godkin. Ainz, Aura, and Mare were having their morning meal. Of course, because Ainz couldn't eat, it was really just Aura and Mare who were eating. It wasn't only the dishes which brought out the flavors of the ingredients that the Dark Elves had provided them. There were also things from Nazarick that Ainz had put into his inventory and brought here with them. After each bite of the dishes the Dark Elves had provided them, Aura and Mare would write their impressions of it on the paper next to them. They would then be shown to the intellectuals of the various races in Erantil and researched. However, as of right now, they had not made a single surprising discovery including things of monetary value. They didn't know what would happen to their relationship with this village hereafter, but there didn't seem to be any materials that they could use as the basis to form beneficial trade relations with. The reason Aura and Mare were recording their impressions of the food after each bite was so that when they were asked about it, even Ainz would be able to answer. However, there was just one problem. Being used to the food of Nazarick, no good impressions of the Dark Elf cuisine came from the refined palates of Aura and Mare. But the only people who could possibly say it doesn't taste good, the people who made it, were people who didn't consider others' feelings, people who wanted to worsen their relationship. In other words, and for the sake of the argument, children. Therefore, their meal took quite a long time to finish. They would take a bite, chew it, raise their eyebrows, and then write their honest impressions. After that, Ainz would flip through the notebook they wrote in, knit his eyebrows, and finally write a more flattering impression. To write, the ingredients are fresh every time would hardly qualify as a proper impression. For that reason, it was necessary to change up the words even if just by a little bit. When they had finished writing down their impressions which were so painstakingly hard to come up with that if they had a thesaurus, they would have immediately started flipping through it. Aura and Mare were exhausted. They looked as if they had been in an eating contest. It was precisely because he knew how hard their work had been that Ainz told them, "Thank you for your hard work." At the sound of Ainz's voice, the two of them stiffened their faces. "Nah, this sort of thing is nothing, you know, uncle." "Right. Be because we just ate and wrote our impressions." No, it was just as Mare had said. However, there was no way he could have said things like, "Yeah, you're right," exactly, since he had a body that couldn't eat. Their hard work had been for Ainz's sake from the very beginning. Even if those two, who were children, were to give their honest impressions, it probably wouldn't be that big of a problem. The only one for whom it would have been a major problem for was Ainz. If Ainz were able to eat, he wouldn't have had to have them rack their brains this much. It would never be enough, no matter how many times he thanked them. Although, if he were to declare his gratitude over and over again, the two of them would probably feel weighed down by it. That was why Ainz didn't say any more than that and asked for their impressions of the meal. Those honest impressions were the same for both of them, and were the same every time. That said, he still had to know just in case. Maybe we should have offered them some well-seasoned food from the outset, and told them that we eat this kind of food. If we had, they might have tried to make the same sort of dish. They might have. While tilting her head in puzzlement at her own words, Aura continued. Only sprinkling salt on the meat when you're grilling is simple and not a bad idea, but maybe their method of preserving the freshness isn't perfect. The gaminess of the meat really lingers in your mouth, right? I think there are people who would even say that's fine, but I don't really like it, you know. A fair amount of time had passed since she had come to this village, but Aura's way of speaking was still inconsistent after all. I agree. It's a little gamey. I see. The vegetables aren't too bad, but there isn't much sweetness to them, and the bitterness or acidity would be the first things you'd notice about them. I might recommend them to people who like that sort of thing, but couldn't they make condiments with fruit, I wonder? I want some dressing. I see. It really was the same as always after all. Then, I'm sorry, but could you two show me what you wrote? When he saw what they had written, he understood just how hard they had worked on complimenting the food. I really do appreciate your hard work. Ainz lowered his head to the two of them, in his mind. After briefly scanning over it, not that there was very much, and desperately trying to remember all of it, Ainz returned the notebook to them. With this, their morning preparations were over. Then the next thing he should do was head to the office. Okay. It's about time, so I'll be heading out. I think I'll also be home late today, so could you go ahead and eat without me? The two of them answered in unison. Just then, Ainz noticed that Aura looked like there was something she wanted to say. What's the matter, Aura? Is something bothering you? Oh, yeah, that's right, uncle. You're going to learn how to make medicine today, too, right? That's right, exactly. Today he's going to teach me how to make medicine. That's a little more difficult. I used Gate to go ask Inferia about the name of the medicine, but he said that even he didn't know it. Really, it would have been faster if we could use message, but Ainz let out a sigh. Well, when you consider that people who are enemies of Nazar could possibly be using it, it might be better to just leave them as they are. Is it really okay to do that? Or his tone of voice changed, so Ainz also changed his tone to match. If this was a question she made as a floor guardian, then it was also necessary for Ainz to answer as the ruler of Nazark. I do not know. But I have no intention of making that medicine, because if the medicinal herbs it uses also exist in Yggdrasil, I will absolutely fail. It was the same with cooking. Because Ainz didn't have the required skill, he couldn't use medicinal herbs, alchemical reagents, or other things to make medicine in Yggdrasil. But by using the technology of this world and the medicinal herbs unique to it, he could make medicine. Therefore, when he was receiving instructions from the pharmacist, he had to first ask what kind of medicinal herbs they were using. However, there really are a lot of mysteries, I can't use the medicinal herbs of Yggdrasil, but what would happen if they were raised in the soil of this world? Would they be judged as being particular to this world? Or would that not work? Probably the latter I think. You're probably right. Then, what would happen if their efficacy dropped? Isn't it true that the efficacy of whatever is grown in a man-made medicinal herb field drops? According to Inferia, the reason for not making medicinal herb fields in Irantul and other places is because of the soil, or because of insufficient nutrients. He said the effects were weak. Though it seems that is the very reason why he was conducting experiments by making a medicinal herb field in the middle of that forest. Yes, it does seem like that is the case. It was small, but there was one in the forest. Then there were also a lot of logs with mushrooms growing on them, as well as ones with moss growing on them. I remember seeing that kind of thing when I secretly checked in on them. It really is pretty tough to secretly get close to that village. Aura said earnestly. The goblins under Henry's control were standing guard in a wide area around Karn village. In particular, there seemed to be a being called the Goblin Trapper. Unlike damage-type traps, the alarm-type traps set by the Goblin Trapper were more difficult to discover. But if there aren't enough nutrients, then I think we just have to use items and have Mare work hard on them. Upon receiving the gazes from the two of them, Mare shrank back. Well, you see, I don't think it's something that I can't do, but I think what might be really necessary is the nutrients in the soil. Oh, of course, I'm secretly doing that at night in the Irantul Adventurers Guild's medicinal herb garden, but I also have a feeling that it's not really doing much good. Though they may look the same, when they actually tried making potions using the medicinal herbs from the guild's field, a troubling result appeared. There were signs that the effect was slightly inferior. Was it because there was an overabundance of nutrients from what Mare was doing? A coincidence? Was something else lacking? Was their magic suited to medicinal herb cultivation? Because there were a great many elements that could be the cause of the problem, they had not yet been led to an answer. Even though several years have passed since we came to this world, there really are a lot of things that we still don't understand. Yes. Every time their knowledge bank grew, every time they discovered a thing they didn't understand, the mysteries of this world grew as if they were connected. Ainz didn't know whether or not you could say they were fortunate, but the only question that remained was if they were high priority. As a result, the things they hadn't investigated and put off until later accumulated. If they were able to leave it to the servants or summoned monsters, they might be able to solve them quickly, but unfortunately, servants and summoned monsters couldn't do a portion of the experiments. Ainz had considered that at a minimum, the experiments had to be done by beings who were born in the same way that the NPCs or players were created. However, if that were the case, then even if Ainz a player and an NPC were to do the same things, there might be differences in the results. If he believed that it was necessary to investigate something, they would need to have Ainz, an NPC, and a servant, 3 people repeating the same experiment. If we do this kind of cultivation experiment, it might be fine to leave it to the people we have placed under our control, but important experiments and such can be entrusted to those who could become our potential enemies in this world. And if that is the case, it means they must only be performed by those from within Nazark, but we don't have that kind of leeway in terms of personnel. It's a troublesome thing. So that means while being on guard so that other countries' technologies don't make breakthroughs, we'll only be improving the technology in Nazark so that it benefits us. It was troublesome, but there's no doubt that if I left it up to Albedo or Demiurge that they could take care of it one way or another. Those two are smart, after all. Or rather, it was because it was those two that there was a chance they were already tackling it, so it might just be unnecessary worrying on his part. For the time being, he probably only had to raise the issue. Just like last time, all I would have to do is make a summoned monster, write it down, and throw it into the suggestion box. If he did that, he could avoid the danger of it appearing like he was only just realizing that now. Whoops. Crap. It's already time. Well, I'll be going then. Faster than he could even see the two of them nodding, Ainz flew out there, borrowed Elf 3. As expected, there was no way he could be late. Even in his former working life, he hadn't been late even once, no matter how absorbed in Yggdrasil he had been, for instance. Hurry up, hurry up. Light shone on Ainz's face.